Thank you. Our next speaker is Asif Uddin, the spokesperson for the Justice for Anis Sardar campaign.
الرحيم الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Greetings and salutations. Just before I begin, I just want to have a show of hands of how many people in this audience have heard of an individual by the name of Anis Sardar. Okay, so hopefully by the end of this you'll remember his name. So who is Anis Sardar? Anis Sardar is a British citizen who's facing, or in fact, he is facing a 38-year jail sentence for a crime he hasn't committed. Now, you may have heard this statement, or this phrase, a crime he hasn't committed, a number of times. But what if I were to say that even the prosecutors failed to prove that he committed the crime? What if I were to say that even his defense were unchallenged? Would that not make you think? Would that not give a different meaning to this almost cliched phrase that crime that he hasn't committed? So what is the story or the background of Anis Sardar? Anis was a student of Islamic knowledge. In the mid-90s, he decided to travel to what was then a peaceful Syria to pursue his studies in the Arabic language. And he stayed there for around 10 years. During his time, an influx of refugees came through the borders of Iraq. And as a result of the invasion of Iraq. And during this period, he befriended one of these Iraqi refugees by the name of Abu Muhammad. And Abu Muhammad had his parents in Iraq, and he wanted to bring them to the safer Syria. So he decided to make his way to Iraq, and as a result, knowing what we know about Anis and how helpful he is, he offered Abu Muhammad, his friend, a hand. He got on the back of a truck full of medical equipment, and he went to the village of Abu Muhammad, and he attended the wounded. He helped a number of people from this village to a safer place. So during this period, he had seen what could be described as being one of the worst periods that Iraq has seen. One of the broadsheet journalists, when asked about Iraq, despite the fact that he has gone to Rwanda and he's seen the genocide that's taken place in Rwanda, in describing what happened between this forgotten time from 2005 to 2008, he says to people, don't ask me. Because this is what some of the things that Anis saw were really horrific. He saw dead bodies in the canals, with bodies being drilled, eyes gouged out. And I don't want to go further in describing some of the things that he had seen. So these are some of the scenes that he had witnessed. People being killed and people being abducted from this village. On one afternoon, Abu Muhammad and Anis, they went to a neighboring village. There, Anis was left by himself, where Abu Muhammad went to do some other things. And he saw some of the people in this house and asked them what they were doing. They said that our children, our wives, our brothers, our fathers, our uncles are being killed and they're being abducted by the neighboring village, who come from, who support the ruling militia. For during this time, anyone who was Sunni in that particular area was facing great aggression. So he asked them, what are you doing? And they were making some IEDs, improvised explosive devices. Anis was asked to take one of them. Not being able to help the Iraqis any further, Anis decided to go back to Syria to finish his final year at university. Really damaged and dealing with the psychological effects of what he had witnessed, he decided to go back to the UK. He couldn't take it anymore. He needed some element of normalcy. So he completed his final year at one of the UK universities, and he got married. He did the knowledge and qualified as a black cab driver, and he settled in once again. In 2014, last year, 2 days before he was planning on going on Hajj, which is the greater pilgrimage for Muslims, his house was raided. In 2007, when he initially left Syria, a few months after Anis returned to the UK, a US Army vehicle went in an area that US Army vehicles don't usually go to. So it was a stray US Army vehicle. They don't go on the dirt tracks, but they just stay on the roads. And this is something that the prosecution admitted also. One of the army officers by the name of Randy Johnson was killed as a result. And there was no evidence that Anis's fingerprint was on that IED. So in 2015, this year, Anis was found guilty of a murder he did not commit. His lawyer, who is present here, Gareth Pierce, said clearly that she had access to extremely powerful potential witnesses that could have exonerated or led to the exoneration of Anis Sardar. But unfortunately, the witnesses, one after the other in court, were rejected because they were not given the right amount of protection to stop their identities being leaked to the Iraqi militia, ruling militia, or the police. So they could not guarantee their protection. Anis has never been a threat to anyone. Before he left for Syria, and once he came back from Syria, and the fact that he did not do anything, the worst crime he probably did in the UK is just a parking fine that most of us have committed. But he's never been a threat to anyone. I want you to imagine if a white, non-Muslim British man went to fight an evil regime such as ISIS today, and he joined one of the Kurdish groups or something like this, and an American officer was killed in similar circumstances. Really? Can you say with your hand on your heart that he would have got 38 years, like Anis Sardar? If we are able to use different labels for identical cases that have massively different outcomes, then we know that justice is not being sought. Once we move away from the basic principles of truth and equality, we are acting like the countries that we criticize. This case of Anis Sardar was bereft of any context. And this context that should have been the greatest witness, that couldn't take the witness stand on that day of court, is a proof of this. That every witness that was presented to the courts was rejected. Knowing of such great and grave misjudgments, living in this country, honestly, can you ask yourself, do you feel safe? I seriously doubt that any single member of that jury that gave Anis a guilty verdict would bet their own lives on the fact that Anis killed that American soldier. How could they without any evidence? I want you to think about this. How many of you, and I apologize in advance for asking an embarrassing question, how many of you are younger than 38 years old? That's the vast majority of this audience. Anis will be in jail for longer than you've been alive. I want you to also think about something else. I'm sure many of you, if not all of you, know of a 3-year-old. Maybe this 3-year-old is your son. Maybe this 3-year-old is your daughter, a nephew or a niece. Anis's daughter just turned 3 days ago. She will not see her father free until she's 40 years old. So what can you do? I just want to mention 3 things before I close on what you can do. The first thing is to join the Justice for Anis campaign, Facebook campaign. This has got a 4, it's not F-O-U-R, it's just the letter, it's the number 4. And join it so you can find out about the updates and get your friends to do this. Get at least each person in this audience to get at least 10 people to join this Facebook page. The second thing that I want you to do is to help the campaign by presenting or getting in contact with us in any way that you can that will help the campaign. Maybe you're very good at making documentaries, maybe you have a lot of money that can make documentaries. And the final thing is that if you know anyone, any person of prominence, any person who's respected in society, then get them to get in contact with us so that they can give a supporting statement. Alhamdulillah, we have the support now of Noam Chomsky, who has talked very briefly and given a statement regarding the travesty of justice that is found in the case of Anis Sardar. جزاكم الله خير سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك اشهد ان لا اله الا انت استغفرك